Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with KC, a segment brought to you by the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. Here, the conversations are raw and casual with people from a plethora of backgrounds. And your favorite host, KC Phoenix.
Welcome back to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. I, of course, am your host, KC Phoenix. And I have an awesome guest who was kind enough to come on and do a conversation. And it's amazing how all of this started, because it started on the telephone at first, but then we migrated over here where we're at now. But I will let the guest go ahead and introduce herself.
You had a little adventure together. It was a bonding experience. My name is Maria Hill. So thank you so much for having me, first of all. My name is Maria Hill, and I'm a psychic medium. I'm a psychic medium, a Reiki master, and a tarot reader. And I'm just passionate about all things metaphysical. I'm also a big fan of science still. So I like to kind of, tell people that it's okay to be open to both worlds, and hopefully one day they'll start to merge together a little better and play nicer together. But that's a quick little bite about me.
Well, and that's interesting. I dealt with the Reiki master, which I still kind of deal with her. I haven't done a reading with her in sometimes I forget what year we're in. We're in 2022. No, we're in 2021. 2021. Still in 2022. It was 2012. And I had worked with her from about 2004 to 2012. And she was really interesting. She would talk to me about past lives and stuff like that. And I've always wondered with Reiki, like, how does that work? What energy are you tapping into?
So technically, we're trained to tap into like life force energy, otherwise known as ki or chi. And what it allows us to do is not drain our own personal energy. If you've known any healers long term, it's not uncommon to see them get very sick at some point because they're tapping into their own personal or their own energy field so often, their own life force so often. And if they're not trained correctly, or if they're forgetting to recharge and rebalance, it can cause a lot of illness in that healer. So what's nice about Reiki is instead of tapping in locally, you're tapping into the plenty of, universal energy just floating all around us, within us, and all that makes up our whole reality. And so that allows us to kind of just be a vessel. We call upon the Reiki energy. It just kind of moves through us and passes into the person getting the healing. And it allows the healer to get a healing also while the client is also getting the healing. So it's kind of a really beautiful rejuvenation thing.
Okay, that's interesting because, I know for me, like with my thing, which I'm still learning how to control my stuff, I have premonitions, I pick up energy. It's sort of that thing like, how do I know the things that I know type of situation. It's not one of those things where if I were like, okay, what's this going to be like this week, or what's this going to be like in the future? I don't have that ability. I can read tarot card energy. And like I said, I have premonitions that come true more times than not. But as for tapping in and doing it on command, it's a whole nother thing. Is what it is. So yeah. But how long have you been doing the Reiki? Was it something that you sort of knew that you had the ability to do, or did you just sort of fall into it? Because I noticed some people just fall into this stuff.
Yeah. Well, much like you, I kind of started to detect throughout my life that I kind of had these things that would happen. I wasn't necessarily trying to control them. But I was like, just like you, having premonitions. I was seeing dead people all the time. I thought I was just hallucinating. I was like, oh God, what's wrong with me? And, I was like sensing energy. I could tell what people were thinking. I was like, whoa, and, but I couldn't control it, and I didn't think I could either. But it turns out it's just like, once you're aware of it and you accept it as a gift, then you can actually create structures around them, those things, to be able to actually do it on command. So for you as well, it's just a whole mindset and a practice. It takes a while, but it's a beautiful journey. It's also kind of confusing at times. But for me, I started to know that something was different about me when I was very little. I started seeing like dead people and stuff in my room when I was like a toddler. And I actually have first memories is like, one of my first memories is like literally a poltergeist experience.
Oh, wow.
It's like, so it just always stuck with me. And then I would talk to my little buddies at school, and they were like, I was like, what? You don't like, no? Oh, okay. Just me. And I was like, I think I'm a little different, and then I started to, like, in the 90s, all those medium shows started showing up. Like there was like Sylvia Brown and like, on Montel and stuff, and
right.
I'd watch it with my mom, and I was like, wait a minute, so it slowly started to percolate into my consciousness. And then by the time I was in my early 20s, that's when I really was like, okay, no, I have these gifts and I need to figure out what to do because they're driving me nuts.
Well, see, you know what they always say, the Lord doesn't put more on us than we can bear, because
right?
If I started seeing dead people, I would be like, okay, that's I'm checking out.
Trust me, I felt that way.
Because I'm like, I hear things, because when I do my reading, sometimes I hear things, and I'll say to my listeners or my viewers when I'm doing tarot card readings, it's like, something told me to say whatever. And that's based off of the thoughts that I hear in my head. And I know that they're not my thoughts. But exactly. If I were to see someone in front of me, I think the divine knows that, where it's not my thing. But I want to ask you this, though. Now, you deal with a shop as well, to my understanding.
Mm-hmm. It's an online one, but yeah, nonetheless, it's a shop.
Okay, well, a shop is a shop is a shop.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that are available at the shop?
Well, it's mostly for courses and educational tools, but we do have, it's more like guides to people are always like, where do I get this and where do I get that? So we'll point them in the right direction. We don't make any money off those references really, but it's more of like we're selling, we do like webinars, we do digital courses, and we do, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking, but we do these like live events that people can sign up for and learn things, or, maybe it's like a live course that'll last like, a few months that people can participate in, trainings. We do Reiki master certifications. And so basically we're kind of going more and more towards an educational direction. We used to do pretty much mostly readings. Mm-hmm. But then I got very ill, and It seems like it's going to be a long-term thing. So personally, like doing mediumship readings was starting to really tap me out a bit, and I wasn't having enough energy left for, to get well. So I basically had to put that stuff on the side, and I'm only doing like tarot and stuff here and there, because those are a little more low impact. But we're shifting to like an educational thing. We're going to do a membership program where people can get like all these cool materials, like kind of like a Patreon. So that's kind of the direction we're moving in now.
Okay, awesome. And I do, when you had just said that you had become a little bit ill and stuff, mm-hmm. where that happened. And I'm about to talk about two things, actually. I believe I can relate a little bit, because I went through a situation in 2020 where I got mono and parvo at the same time.
No.
Yeah. So ever since then, my body has been trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to recalibrate here? And it's been an uphill climb ever since, but I'm making it slowly but surely. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And go into that statement, what doesn't kill us. One thing that I heard, and I believe it was Wajid, who was on my show, where having a close to death life experience, for some people, that might help open up their quote unquote third eye, or help them see things that other people normally don't see. And I thought about that because when I was a kid, about 5 years old or so, I almost died by drowning. And yeah, I was a kid. I was playing with my cousins, and I jumped in the pool in the deep end. Didn't know how to swim, and just jumped in the pool, and I almost drowned. My cousins went and got my mother, and my mother came, and my life was saved. And my mother asked my cousins, who saved him? And my cousin said, some Egyptian man. What saved me? Now, mind you, this happened in upstate South Carolina, almost. Let's see, I'll be 43, so 5 from 43. Yeah, 38. So almost 38 years ago. So, what are the chances of seeing somebody? It's like my cousins didn't say, "Oh, well, it was some light-skinned black man, or it was some Asian man, or it was this, or it was that." They said it was some Egyptian man that saved me. And my mother said, I always said that man is my angel, is what my mother had said about him. That she was like, that was an angel, because to this day, nobody knows who that man was. But it was a close to death experience. I'm curious, did that have something to do with me? Not just me being a Cancer too, because obviously Cancers are an intuitive sign. But did that have something to do? Did you have a similar experience where you may have had a close to death experience?
First of all, wow. Thank you, whoever that was, right? Because it's really lovely to meet you, and I'm glad you get to be here today. Clearly, it was not your time. Now, some things came to me intuitively while you were talking. It was so weird, because right before you talked about your near-death experience, I was seeing all this blue energy around you.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, that's a lot of blue. And and then you're like water, oh, Cancer. I'm like, oh, no wonder. Okay, like you have, because I was seeing wateriness as like a strength for you. It's actually a strong energy for you, ironically. But about that gentleman, about that kind ancient Egyptian sir, that was actually like a friend of yours from a past life who was like a guide now. So that's someone you actually worked with or knew in a past life in Egypt. So it's quite a long time ago. I'd say it probably was probably ancient, towards ancient times. It feels very old. You're a very old soul.
That's what I've
been there, done that, and you're like, oh, like you're back again, so, but that's what it was. And that person is still with you as a guide. So I think that person's probably going to be more of like a lifelong guide. So yes, it can open you up. It can open you up. Absolutely. I actually just did a segment on this like a month ago, talking about the different ways these different traumatic experiences, not just near death, but also like having a loss in the family or having like something really tragic happen to you, can open you up suddenly, because it shatters your consciousness paradigm,
Yeah, it's an experience. I'm learning about new things. I'm stuck because I want more information. And it's so strange because Archangel Metatron has been coming up a lot. And now I'm sort of doing a little bit of studying. I'm like, okay, Book of Enoch, what's that about? And then some people are saying, well, technically Enoch wasn't written by Enoch and all of these other things. And it's really this whole thing of I'll say the industry that we're in, which I don't even know if I want to consider myself in this industry, because I just do what I do. I don't consider myself like a true psychic or a true medium or a true this or a true that. It's just I pick up energy.
But you are, though. You don't have to be a professional.
But I'm looking to learn more information, though. Just like something I heard about the Akashic, I believe it's called records. I'm interested in those. And you had mentioned when we were talking about Egypt, because when I spoke, her name is Vivian, the person who's a certified Reiki master that I was talking about. She's in Jersey, Vivian Basilari. She is so funny. And Egypt did come up. And I have always been drawn to Egypt for whatever reason. Don't know, but apparently I might have some ties to Egypt. So going back to what you were talking about a moment ago, I could see that. I guess my question is this. What is your overall goal being in this industry? Do you have a goal of to say, okay, I want to read at least 100 people a year. I want to help at least 100 people a year, or I want to make sure information is available to as many people as possible. What's sort of your goal while being in this industry?
Yeah, it's a teaching goal, really. For me, I don't really have any dreams of like glory, I just love teaching, and the feeling of fulfillment I get when I see the kind of light bulb go off for other people. And then, they become a part of our community, and I get to watch them kind of morph and change and empower themselves. Like that to me is one of the most rewarding things I've ever been able to do. And my partner Trang and I from the Happy Healing Shop, we always talk about how we're not here to make people reliant on us. We want them to be able to do the stuff that we're offering with our services. That's why we're even like more so going towards teaching, because we just realize that's more of our thing. So I would say the goal is to just spread as much information in a simple way. I don't like to convolute stuff. I don't like to get people out of their bodies and they're just floating off in the ether all the time, not living their lives. Like I want to give people practical ways to incorporate this and stay grounded and actually have a positive experience in this life while still being very spiritual. So I try to make it a simple, grounded approach. My partner's the same way. I think that's kind of like, to sum it up, what we're looking to do. But I will say this, I work in tech. That's actually my day job. It's like a full-blown
that's
career.
My day job too.
Oh, and here we are. I also have past life connection with Egypt as well. So maybe we were like buddies, you know what I'm saying? But
wow.
Honestly, yeah, it can happen. It's not uncommon. I work with Metatron as well. And like the angels I work with, they tend to like deposit me and other people into each other's paths. I notice. That's like a slight tangent. But as far as, like, how to combine my tech career too with that is I currently design clinical trial software, and I just love designing products, digital products. So I hope one day that we also at the Happy Healing Shop get to design digital wellness products, spiritual products that are digital, to help make it more accessible and easier to digest. So I'd say longer term, that's also something else I would hope we get to do.
Well, that would be good. I know one thing, my worry sometimes when it comes to tech is that where this thing that I guess one might title as a technocracy is starting to develop. And I don't want the world to be so reliant. I'm not saying don't dismiss it, because I'm sure you've heard of Elon Musk. Like everyone's just about heard of Elon Musk. And there's this amazing thing he's coming out with. It's called, I believe, the Neuralink. And it can help people who are possibly paralyzed, who may have had a stroke and things of that nature. That is the, I would say, the good side of stuff. Yeah. But then you start, I don't know, have you seen the movie or the anime? I don't know if you're in the anime or not. Mm-hmm. But there's this anime called Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, yes, I've seen it.
And the Ghost in the Shell type thing, that's sort of what I'm afraid of, where people who have nefarious intentions, where they're on this conquest to grab as much power as they can through technology and to surpass the spirit world, which I've said on my channel plenty of times, which, by the way, on the Keeping It Real with KC podcast, we talk about everything from tarot card readings to the lady who tried to breastfeed the cat on the plane to yes, it really, it happened. Delta didn't deny it. So as far as I'm concerned, it happened. There's no alleged. Delta was like, well, we support breastfeeding and all, but they never denied it, that the incident happened. So, and just a whole bunch of other things that I cover on this show. So I talk about everything on here. But one thing that I've always said, as related to the spirit world, as related to what we do, technology will never be able to replace the spirit world. It can't be done. No matter how many gains you try to make with technology, no matter what you do with it, it's just not possible. And that's what I worry about sometimes. I don't know if you have that worry, especially working in the tech field. You might have seen some things too, because I usually keep my ear to the ground. So I'm just,
Oh yeah. No, I'll tell you, one time when I did a lot of contract work for like, I don't even know, like 7 years or something before I decided to like settle down into like a normal like 9-to-5 job, which I'm still doing. But I'd worked for tons of different entities, including like, really high profile companies and stuff. And I remember this one guy I was doing a lot of work for, I was doing like tech presentations for him for these like, so he can get like investments and stuff. And I remember the stuff he was working on was like straight up like stuff out of like the dystopian, like sci-fi movies where like you walk by something and an ad hologram pops up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a part of this. Like, I don't like, I like was so conflicted. I was like, this is really cool, like on a technology level, but also like, that's terrifying. And it was like big data stuff. And I was just like, oh God, I don't know if I want to continue to participate in this because it doesn't feel right. And it was also scary to see how much interest was in it. So yeah, like I've seen some stuff for sure. And I've also worked for extremely large companies that I got to see a little bit of the inside deal. And it was also very terrifying because these companies, everyone thinks is so good. And I'm like, so you're, as a little person trying to make a difference in the world, how do you compete with the giants when they just want the profit and, they're exploiting people's vulnerabilities to make their cases on these things. So it's a little tricky.
Well, it's interesting. One thing, and I'll throw this out here too, something I watched today, and it's amazing because when I was watching this, I'm like, that was some of the energy that I had already picked up. I watched some of the predictions for 2022 with Nostradamus. And if you ever get a chance, you can go on YouTube, put in 2022 Nostradamus predictions. And one of the things that he predicted for 2022 is that AI will take over. I don't pick up the energy of it happening in 2022. I'll give that another 10 years. Now, he also predicted the US dollar collapsing. I could see that happening in 2022. I actually did a reading on the economy probably about a month or so ago. And the energy that I picked up was that it's going to be real nasty once everything finally crashes. However, some of the people who have been manipulating things from behind the scenes, they're going to get caught up in it too. They're under the impression right now that, I'm not going to get caught up in it. I know what I'm doing. I know how to manipulate this. I'm well cushioned and all of this stuff. But the energy that I was picking up when doing that reading is like, you're going to get caught up in it too. And something that was always said to me during the reading was that the last shall be first. Over and over again, I kept hearing that the last shall be first. So I feel that is coming. But for the 2022 predictions, have you picked up any energy of things that might be coming? Because I feel like it's going to be rough the first part of 2022, but then it's going to be amazing the other part of 2022.
Yeah, I definitely picked up that duality as well. But it's like we've struggled so much with being able to come together in 2020 and 2021. We still just seem like we're evading the communal aspect of that, and like it just caused a lot of division, and people weren't really learning. And I had done a prediction, and right when COVID started, people were like, can you do a prediction? So I did one, a channeling on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, where I had predicted that there was going to be about a 2-year long journey through COVID, and then it was going to be a 10-year long impact as a shockwave. Like it changes us for like society continues to morph because of that for like 10 years. That's how far out the shockwave goes. And then we just fundamentally change as a society, which that's how things can happen. So yeah, I've been telling people, like, because everyone's like, oh, 2022 is almost here. Like, is it going to be so much better? And I was like, listen, I don't want to get your hopes up. It's going to be a little gnarly for a while, but I do see that there is a transformative nature of it. And I think it depends on how people personally decide to go with that transformative opportunity, because transformation's painful, but if you surrender to it, then it can be really just beautiful and enlightening. So people have to be able to let their egos go. I think that's going to be one of the big lessons, because ego was running. The reason why we were dividing is our egos were all getting in the way, and our beliefs and all this stuff. So I do agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And see, for that part where people are coming together, I honestly feel that people are waking up, not to go too deep into it, because I won't go too deep into the politics of things. But my thing, I've always said that the biggest issue is classism, is what I've always seen the biggest issue. I was like, all this other stuff is whatever. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying the biggest issue is classism. The biggest wealth transfer that has happened, probably in history, if not in the top 3 of history, has happened over this last 2-year period, where richer people have gotten richer. And I'm a car, and don't get me wrong, and my listeners know I'm a card carrying capitalist. So don't get me wrong. I am a capitalist. I'm all about meritocracy and everything else. However, I do believe that when certain things are put into place and you're stacking the deck so wrong against other people who are attempting to just survive, and then not applying those same rules to people in the upper echelons, that's where there's an issue. And that's the other thing too. I did a reading because I had a premonition back some months ago. The title of that episode was A Message from the Spirit World. And in that dream, that premonition, the spirit world was upset. And they were upset in my dream because people were silent and not speaking up. And in my dream, the energy and the message that I received was that now, where some people in the spirit world are kind of indifferent, because you have those who, like to cause chaos, those who like to do good things, and those who are indifferent, sort of like you're in the physical 3D world. And the people, the spirits that are indifferent, now they're kind of like, okay, maybe we do need to step in and help. And I said, don't be surprised if you start seeing more people speaking up, because those spirits are coming to hold those people up, is what they will be doing.
Oh, I got chills.
So for that part, I'm just kind of like, with 2022, I have high hopes, and I'm looking for the rainbows, because I always tell people, it's like, if you look for rain, you're going to find rain. If you look for rainbows, you're going to find rainbows. But also, you can't have rainbows without the rain.
Exactly.
So it's all about what you look for. Now, as for ego, my listeners know I have a huge ego, and I don't. I tell people straight, it's like, I have a huge ego. It's just, it is what it is. And I'm a work in progress, is what I am. My moon is in Leo. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my rising is still in debate. Maybe you can help me with this. This is an interesting story. I can tell you this right quick.
Yes, please.
So, many years ago, back in, I want to say, 2001, I think, an associate of mine, our former associate, because we don't really talk that much anymore, but he is amazing when it comes to astrology. As in, he can have a conversation with someone and then tell them what their sign is. That's how good he is. And we were talking one day, and he already knew I was a Cancer, but we were talking one day. He's like, I don't know why, but I feel like your rising sign is Aries. He's like, I just don't know why. And I was like, I guess. And so we went to the book that he had, and we looked it up, because I had to, it's based off of the time you're born and the day and all that stuff. And based off of the time, which I had to get from my mother, luckily she knew because some mothers don't know.
Yeah, right.
And I looked at the time and I was right on the cusp of it. And I was like, oh, wow, it is Aries. But then with these newfangled technology things, there's a story. There's a story to this. There's something behind the story. With all of this new technology stuff, if you put in the time and the date and where you were located, it's saying that my rising sign is Aquarius. So I feel like my rising sign is Aries through and through. But if you put it into a little computer system...
Were you guys using... Well, here's some of the things I've seen with the computer systems that people may not realize, the default settings. It will set it to usually... oh my God, why am I blanking? The standard Western system. Why am I blanking on this? I look at this stuff all the time. There's a standard, the tropical system, right? So in tropical... has I think it's a 22.4, 22.5 degree difference between tropical and, oh my God, I'm blanking on the other one. The one they use for like Vedic astrology, that, Indian astrology. That one is different. So you'll fall into like, some people will fall into different signs. Like everything just gets shifted 22.4 degrees. So sometimes that can cause that if you don't realize that the program is set to one or the other. So, look at one and see how that feels, and then look at the other one. You'll just usually be able to drop down and toggle, and that way you can kind of see. Because, like, for example, I'm a Libra in tropical, but sidereal, that's the term. Sidereal, I am a Virgo. But I feel more like a Virgo. But then I'm also like a designer that loves pretty things and balance and justice, and I'm very like always trying to balance everything. So I'm very Libra, but I'm also very like neurotic, like a Virgo. So I like to kind of blend them together.
But you know what? That with the justice and balance, those are Virgo energies to me. Virgos are very, actually, the associate I was talking about just a moment ago, he said Virgo's the most intelligent sign of the zodiac. I say Gemini is the most intelligent sign of the zodiac.
Geminis are awesome, yeah.
Yeah, Geminis have a mind like a steel trap. I always say that.
Oh, seriously.
So my cousin's a Gemini, and I know other Geminis too. But with the whole deciding, it's kind of like, okay, well, what's going through my head is like, well, if my rising sign, if I'm identifying it as Aries, if it's truly Aries, then would all of my other stuff be thrown off? Because my Mercury is in Cancer, my Venus is in Gemini, my Mars is in Gemini, my Moon is in Leo, my Sun is in Cancer, my rising, according to them on the computer thingy, is in Aquarius. And, oh gosh, there was another planet that I picked up. I noticed there was a lot of air. My north, what is it called? North
node.
Or north node. My north node is in Virgo. My south node is in Pisces. And there's something else in Virgo, the Vex or something. I think it's called Vex or
Vesta.
I forgot what it's called. I don't know. They call it something. Oh my goodness. Look, now my mind's blanking.
Right.
But it's something. No, but it's something else that's in Virgo in my chart. So it's really interesting.
Well, honestly, it kind of makes sense. Like, I know I've only just met you, but just your energy and like what you're doing, it makes a ton of sense. Like, you're in tech, that's very Aquarian if you do look at the Aquarius as your ascendant. But still, like, even Virgos, like, they can be really into that stuff, like creating the order and the structure of things. Like, your North Node is in Virgo. So again, like creating structure, you're organizing data and information, you're creating a podcast, very Gemini. Like, it honestly makes a lot of sense. Like, just from the even just a superficial aspect of the Cancer side, the super psychic, fluid, and then you're communicating those things to people. I mean, it all, and then also Aquarius, if you do follow the Aquarius side, that's very humanitarian. So it's all about like bringing using technology and humanitarianism to kind of change society. My North Node is in Aquarius, so that's why I'm just always feel drawn to do like humanitarian type stuff. And my South Node is in Leo, so I have to be humbled in this life because I was already like, I'm the queen. mean? Like in the last life, so whatever. So I got to be like super humble, like, all the time. So my ego is not allowed in this. Like, I get hit hard if it comes out. So, but so with you having those in your chart, it actually makes a lot of sense. And the Aries actually makes a lot of sense because it gives you that fire to put yourself forward, to put yourself out there. I think Aries I love their fire and their passion and the creativity that can come with it. So it makes total sense to me.
Oh my goodness. All right. So now I'm trying to think, what else could we let me ask you this, because I'm curious about this. How does your family feel about your gifts?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to also start by answering the other unanswered question that I forgot to answer earlier. I did not have a near-death experience that triggered my abilities. I was like out of the womb this way. Like I was born with this birthmark on my forehead. It's like a stork mark, but it was like a V right on my third eye. And I have a psychic cousin who's also named Maria, who apparently saw me as a baby and told my parents, like, this baby's going to grow up to be psychic. Like, and so my family was like, wow. And then, yeah, I've just been like that. So, but I have had a lot of near-death experiences. I can't say they necessarily opened me up more. I was just like, I kind of tend to be really like lackadaisical about it, where I'll just be like, oh, wow, that was close. And then I just like carry on like with my day. Because I think I feel protected, but my family, they're all psychic, man, on both sides of my family. From my dad's side, I get more of like the mediumship. They get visions, they have prophetic dreams, they can sense, they're very empathic, they can sense things that in the environment and people that they shouldn't possibly know. But the thing is, like in my culture, I'm Greek, so we're traditionally Greek Orthodox, and it's a very old type of Christianity, very traditional, and they're pretty like moderate, I would say. They're not like, trying to put us in a box too much, but they also don't necessarily have a place. Where does psychic people come in? Like, they don't really talk much about it. There's not really a support system there. So I think they default to like, oh, what if that's a sin? And so there's like that, there's that always that kind of like worried for your soul kind of thing. But then the more I started doing it, the more my family started to ask me more questions. They started, I think, accept their abilities more, started to ask me about their abilities. And I could see them starting to unfurl a little. Some of them have kind of reverted to being afraid again, because they saw me get really sick and they think like, oh, that must be it. And I'm like, no, man, I got a little genetic problem. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, like, stop always blaming everything on being a psychic. But then my parents, my poor parents, man, they're raising this like child with like poltergeist activity happening all the time. Like, stuff's flying off the shelves. I'm getting haunted all the time. Wow. And they were like, did not know what to do with me. They were like terrified. And this is actually kind of a funny story because as I grew up, they would just tell me to like ignore it and pray a lot, put a crucifix over my bed. By the time I was a teenager, it started getting really bad to where I was not able to sleep at night because there would be something kicking under my mattress all night, scratching under my pillows, like knocking on all my walls, rearranging my stuff. And I'd wake up and things would be all moved around. And like every time I tried to fall asleep, they'd start knocking. And so, I was like sleep deprived on top of everything else, having terrible dreams. And my parents were like afraid that I was like possessed or something. So like, because they're coming from like that Christian mindset. So like my dad would come in with like holy water and like holy oil and stuff, and he'd be like anointing me and like blessing my room and like all this stuff because he was like so afraid. He had me sleep with a big crucifix under my pillow. And they sent me to a monastery with a bunch of monks to like get like an exorcism, basically. Yeah. And the monk was like, no, you could see into other realms. Like, I can do the same thing. Like, I'm the same way. And I was like, oh, what? Like, I was expecting the monk to be like, oh, you're a sinner. But instead he was like, oh, like, hey, you and me, we're the same, and so I still went to all these other higher level monks, and they were doing all these rituals on me to see if I was cursed. And so, I mean, it was crazy. And so, yeah, basically it was like, and then I tried the science route. I was like getting poked and prodded. They did MRIs. They were psychologically evaluating me, and they were freaked out. They were like, we've never seen anything like this. And so then at one point when no one could help me, I was like, well, I guess I got to go on my own journey inside and figure out what this is. And that's when I started to accept that it was psychic. And then it helped my family too, because they didn't really know what to make of it either at first, because they were so repressed. So yeah, quite a journey.
And see, that's what I think is that people, because I always tell people we all come from the light. So because we all come from the light, regardless of what we do in whatever timeline we're in at the moment, we have the ability to tap in. You know, some people's abilities are stronger than others, but because we're all children of the light, we naturally have this ability. Now, with my family, I think they repress it. I don't think they accept it because, you know, growing up in the South, Baptist, Methodist, so on and so forth, it's not the thing. And my argument has always been in regards to tarot cards, because if you pull out tarot cards in front of a bunch of Baptists, not to cast a broad net judging them, because I don't judge anyone. This is a no judgment zone. I'm just saying the normal reaction is like, oh my God, they have tarot cards. But for me, I always say, well, a man can get his information from a burning bush, but I can't get information from some cards.
Yes,
so,
love that.
Make it make sense.
Right?
You know, so, yeah, so it's totally, that's how I look at it. Now, the other thing with my family is, and I believe that the reason, not just because of the near-death experience, but also because of the lineage. I'm part Jewish as well. So, and my mother was explaining to me, which for my listeners, because I know if anybody's watching this video, they're probably looking at me and they're like, okay, wait a second, Casey, you're part Jewish. For anybody who's new to the show, my old listeners already know. But my mother and I were having a conversation one day. This is how I found this out. Didn't know it at all. And I said something to her, and she's like, that's your Jewish side talking. And I'm like, Jewish? Who's Jewish? Because I'm thinking, what black person is a Jew? You know? Like, so she's like, that's your Jewish side talking. I'm like, my mother's like, you're Jewish. I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, yes, you are. I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, what is your great grandmother's maiden name? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, Cohen. I'm like, yeah, Cohen. I have cousins, last name Cohen. They go to the church with us, blah, 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 all the Coins. She's like, that's the Jewish name. That's where the red hair comes from in our family. Stuff. Yeah, some of my cousins have red hair and freckles.
Wow.
So, yeah. So she was explaining the name Cohen is actually like, the way she explained it is considered a top tier, where it's like it's a highly revered part in the Jewish community, that last name. And my thought process of this whole thing is that from our lineage on the Jewish side, it wouldn't surprise me if we had people who had this ability, but it got suppressed more and more as time went on, and as people in my family adapted to other types of spirituality. That's my, I guess you could say, hypothesis. So
I think you're onto something, and I see it all the time, especially in very ethnic families. It's so ironic because I have so many people coming to me with extremely psychic families, but their heritage and their religion has them so in a box that they want to venture out, but then they freak out, and then they go double down on tradition because it makes them feel safe. And so I think hopefully with each new generation, you know, there's going to be more and more psychic children coming in that are even more improved than the last, generation. And it's going to kind of force the uncomfortable truth that, like, there are things they can't explain. And it doesn't mean it's bad, like my family thinking I was cursed because I had these gifts, like, made me think I was literally like, this is a curse, F my life, And once I realized, like, no, it's only a curse because we don't understand it, and it has control over me, whereas I want to have control over it. And you were saying at the beginning, to bring this full circle, at the beginning, you were talking about how it just kind of comes to you and you don't feel yet that it's like you're purposefully making it happen, but you absolutely can. And it's just an personal evolution process, and everyone goes at their own pace, and, you know, but I hope that one day that you can feel like you're able to, you know, you're tuned in and able to fully accept that you can do that.
Well, I hope that the rest of the world can become more and more tuned in, because I honestly believe that if you can pick things up, it's almost like with the High Priestess in the tarot deck as well. The High Priestess is known for being silent, but she has this ridiculous amount of knowledge because she can go between the physical world and the spirit world. So she gathers all of this information. And I want people to become more tuned in by gathering information so they'll know when something just isn't right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost like there's two people in the tarot deck you never lie to. It's the High Priestess and the Queen of Swords for different reasons. The High Priestess, she may not have the receipts, but she knows what's going on. It's like, I can't put my finger on it, but I know something's not right. Queen of Swords, she doesn't need to have a feeling. The Queen of Swords has the receipts. She's like, you did this on this date at this time for this amount of period or whatever. So those are the two cards you never lie to. But I want people to be more in High Priestess energy, where if they're faced with something, even though they don't have the receipts in front of them, they still know, okay, I don't have the receipts proving I'm right, but I know something's off. That's what I want for the world as a collective. More of that is what I would like. And obviously that's what you're doing with your school by teaching people to get more tapped in. And can you give the listeners your website as well, too, again?
Yeah, sure. It's thehappyhealingshop.com. And we also have 2 TikTok channels. My personal channel is at Media Maria Hill, and then our Happy Healing Shop channel is the Happy Healing Shop, and we also have our YouTube channel by the same name, the Happy Healing Shop, as well.
All right, awesome. And have you done any books yet or anything like that? Or are you working on a book by chance?
I hope to one day. This was like a very abridged version, but I have quite a wild ride that I hope to share with the world one day. It was like a wild story to how I got here.
What you were telling me, I'm like, okay, wait a second, hold on. Do I need to see if we can secure the movie rights for this?
That's like the surface, like scratching the surface. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, how am I here right now? But yeah, my partner's always telling me, like, you got to write that book one day, man. So I'll definitely let you know when that happens, probably a little while from now. But for now, we're you know, just writing a lot of blog articles and doing a lot of, like, you know, media content to share things that way.
Okay, awesome. Well, I tell you what, it has truly been a pleasure, Maria. And also, before you go, is there anything you want to tell the listeners that are listening?
Well, I just want to say it's been so much fun being here. Thank you so much. What a privilege. And it's also wonderful meeting you. I could talk to you probably for like days. But I just want to tell people that don't let all this like pop. There's a lot of pop metaphysical stuff out there that's just like watered down stuff, and sometimes it makes things seem like elitist, like you have to do this special thing in order to have this energy of the psychic energy, like you were saying earlier, Casey, it's all within us. It's there. We just, once we realize we can do it, that's when we can activate it. It doesn't, like, people tell me all the time, like, I wish I had psychic abilities like you. I'm like, dude, you got it already. Like, you just got to actually say, I'm going to shake the hand of those abilities, say, sir, I'm ready to start this journey. Like, you know, if you don't set that intention, then you're not activating anything. And that goes for everything in life. So I just want to tell people that if you're wanting to learn more about this, get rid of that mindset that says that you don't have these special powers. You'll never be able to do that. And once you throw that out, then really anything's possible.
Okay, awesome. And I wanted to say something else, and then my mind just went, woo! And I'm like, oh my goodness, what was I going to say? Because I was ready to say it too on that part. Oh, hold on. So, certified Reiki master, and also psychic and medium, I feel like I'm missing something.
Oh, tarot reader.
And tarot reader as well. And also, now it just came back to me. Thank you. Okay, so the other thing which you were saying just a second ago, with the is in you and people doing all this other stuff. I had a situation, and we're wrapping up here, people. We're wrapping up. I had a situation where this energy was on me. It was involving my ex. And I was just like, why is this person on my mind? Why is he on my mind like this right now? And what I did, I visualized light in my arm, and then I just went like this as if I'm taking the light and then swatting all of it away. And as soon as I did it, it was gone.
Wow.
Yeah. So going back to, it is in you. When I see people do stuff, which, I mean, the crystals are great. I mean, I'm wearing amethyst right now as well, crystal. I'm also wearing a cross, you know.
Got a little combo going.
Yeah, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm wearing that right now too. So it's one of those things. Yes, this stuff is great, but if your belief isn't in the divine and your belief isn't in yourself, then all of the stones and crystals and everything else is for naught. Is how I feel about it. So you and I are totally on the same page on that.
100%. Yeah. I was just telling people last night this exact same thing.
Wow.
Live. Yeah. That's why I was like, wow, this is tripping me out. We were just talking about it.
We are really in sync. We're going to have to stay in contact afterwards.
I would love that.
That would be awesome. And also, for my podcast listeners, as we're wrapping up, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. Also, do not forget about the Christmas with KC contest. It is a giveaway of cash and gift cards. To enter the contest, all you have to do is sign up for the email list. That link is in the details section. Just put the link in, enter your email address, and then you will automatically be entered in the Christmas with KC contest, and you could receive a CashApp prize or you could receive a gift certificate. So just keep that in mind. So that wraps everything up, and everyone, Maria and I, we're gonna talk on the other side now, but to all the listeners that are listening, until next time, be blessed.